you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you dadgum.
The dadgum government. Hey, good morning. It is I on Muskegon, and I'm Jim Riley, your fuzzy, lovable little host. And Oscar Osbo over there thinking of some way to get back
thinking
at me
of what button I can push to.
for our pre-show conversation here. Hey, helping us out for our community conversation this morning, Captain Fred.
Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't bear, was he?
Okay, well, we just lost about 80% of the audience here. And
how are you today, Jim?
As long as we can avoid speaking Latin, which was another pre-opening commentary, we're good. Hey, we are live. The last couple of weeks, thank you, Oscar and others, we did have to record the show because of my being out of the area. But we are live today, and we want to hear from you. It is a phone-in show, and there's lots of stuff going on. So the phone number is 231-830-3109. And if you forget it and you have access to a computer, you can just go to ionmuskegon.com and look it up. It's on the left side of that of the Ion Muskegon blog. And I would like to start off with a quote. One of my all-time favorite authors, one of my all-time favorite books, and a book that I believe that
Dr. Seuss?
Anyone, Dr.
Green
Seuss
Eggs and Ham, yeah.
Dr. Seuss has an awful lot of very intelligent commentary, but no. This is a little thicker, a little. I'm not sure if it's older. It might be a little older than much of the Dr. Seuss, but this is Ayn Rand, and from Atlas Shrugged, an incredible book that I believe ought to be mandatory in a 20-page book report must be produced by anyone who's going to be accredited as a teacher and stand in front of our students. Which would then, I think, just in and of itself, that requirement would rid our country of so many of the socialists who aspire to be on the government payroll and indoctrinate our students as opposed to teach them. But enough of my commentary. But Ayn Rand's comment.
Latin.
And of course, she was the author of Atlas Shrugged. But, quote, America's abundance was created not by public sacrifices to the common good, but by the productive genius of free men who pursued their own personal interests and the making of their own private fortunes. It goes on, but think about that. Our government today is telling us we must sacrifice for the public good. As a matter of fact, Hillary Clinton, who's very likely to be one of the prime presidential candidates in a little more than, the campaign will probably start in a couple of years, probably in a couple of months. But she's telling us that we've got to sacrifice. And sacrifice is not just giving up. Of course, a sacrifice is paying more in taxes. So our governor here, Governor Snyder and others are, as we're going to talk about, MCC is going to tell us that we need to sacrifice again, even more, to provide what they believe to be more services. But a tax is a sacrifice.
It will be interesting to see if they will prioritize our sacrifices, or if we'll just sacrifice and no prioritization will occur, and therefore we all get to pay for ridiculous things like snail darters and monkey studies.
Well, not to stomp on your premise, but the reality is that it won't be interesting because we know what they do. They don't prioritize. As a matter of fact, they do reverse prioritization. What they do is they find out what's the most important thing to us that we might be able to, that they may be able to get away with, that will punish us for the audacity of American citizens saying, I'd like to keep more of the money that I've legally and honestly earned.
And the debt star continues to rise.
And the debt star continues. Well, hey, as I'd mentioned before, we sort of changed the focus over the last month or so, and it's really more of an organizational change than anything else. But we are trying to provide to our listeners out there sort of a compendium of the things that have happened in the Muskegon County, in the state of Michigan, and certainly there are major national and international topics. But we're trying to do the homework that many of you who have real lives, have jobs, have families, and aren't able to do. But I, in my little man cave, can sit down surfing the web so that we can bring some of the important events that have happened. I'm hanging a 10 to a certain extent, as much as you can hang in a basement. which is probably not really hanging 10.
Yeah, what else do you have in that basement? Yeah.
There we go. Well, we've got actually it's the man cave. I've got all the computers. I'm surrounded with it. It's just wonderful. But I do the surfing, and then we bring that out to you. Hey, but also on this day in history, and I think these are kind of interesting things. General Sam Houston defeated General Santa Anna. I think it's only because his last name is why he lost. But Santa was defeated at the Battle of San Jacinto, and that created the independence of the great state of Texas, which I am now, this is 1836, by the way, this day in history, and I have been told that the Democrat Party, using, I think, probably accurate numbers, believes that the state of Texas will very likely turn from Republican to Democrat within the next 4 years, if in fact immigration reform, as it is posited by many Republicans, by the way, is put into effect. So we can look forward to that. Also, as someone who, and Oscar, you've been on the radio for decades, and I'm relatively new, but we do fear dead air, and we do. I give great credit to the folks.
You fear
week.
dead air.
Well, I do. You don't. I understand that because you always can fall back on music, whereas I
no,
I have to fall back
I used to talk
on blather.
Talk for 4 hours a day. Come on.
Well, I still wake up in the middle of the night with dead air fears, and unlike actually, just as a little aside, I think I've said this story that was told to me by one of the real disc jockeys who is in our Clear Channel, the mega studios here. He said he used to wake up because he was a disc jockey back in the days when they had had records, and he had to pick the records up and put them on.
I was also a DJ when there was records, but anyway, go ahead.
What are records?
Did you have this repeating nightmare? His nightmare was that he would be sitting at the studio and he had to change the record. But in fact, he had tiny little arms, and they wouldn't reach. All he had was hands at his shoulders, and that was his repeating nightmare. Did you ever have that?
Well, I actually had that nightmare when I decided to come back to radio. After 10 years of being out of radio. So
you mean back when you came here?
Yeah.
Well, there we go. And if you wouldn't be able to hit those buttons, we would have similar fears in the future. But you've been hitting them like crazy. But the reason I bring this up, in 1986, those of us who are a little older may remember Geraldo Rivera had the vault in Chicago, the Lexington
Al Capone. Yeah, I remember that.
And just
we all had respect for him until then.
Yes.
Well, you know what? Actually, I have a little more respect, at least back then I did, because he was able to take arguably the most boring event in the history of television for hours and hours and speak about nothing, very much like these folks who were covering the Boston bomber, the waiting and waiting.
But that's the way.
Amazingly enough, when they opened that thing, wasn't there just an empty bottle of whiskey in there or something?
I don't even think there was.
I think he found a license plate or something.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was a
chewed up by a goat.
Whiskey.
But he was able to go on and on and on, and really, take it from me, that is a talent that I do not possess. But he was one.
Well, you were saying that they filled the airwaves, during the bomber thing, but some of these folks just came out with the most ridiculous statements I have ever heard in my life, and I won't.
They're all speculation too. There was no news. There was speculation.
News, it was all speculation. It's just kind of sickening.
Yeah.
Well, it was very sickening, and there was time and again we heard
Diane Sawyer made me want to puke a couple of times.
And what did Diane? What did you see? I see that Diane had to say.
Just the way she presented herself and how she felt so concerned, but.
She emotes. She's got as phony of a facial expression as I've ever seen on television.
It was the usual suspects out there, claiming that right-wing Tea Party terrorists, tax people, Hitler Youths, all kinds of crazy stuff out there.
Well, that it's true, and it wasn't just a lot of the major media. I mean, they get around saying what's certainly in their hearts, what appears to be in their hearts. They get around saying those things by quoting other people. Some people say, or other people have said this. And of course, the initial response was because apparently this is an important event in the left. It was Hitler's birthday last week. There was the Waco anniversary. There were some other events that the left...
And April Fool's Day, April 1.
Well,
And that's a pretty important event in the left side because...
Well, it was April 15th, actually, was the...
that too, April 15th. That's a very important side of their...
But but the left was initially, and the major media, from the internet to radio to television, and certainly on the Twitters and all this, they were immediately running around saying this clearly had the earmarks of the right-wing Tea Party types. Well, someone decided to do a little research and find out who have been the terrorists in the United States over the last so many years. And of course, we all know about Oklahoma City, and who knows what was going on in that guy's mind.
He was a registered Democrat, by the way.
And he was a registered Democrat. And again, we're not suggesting that it's Democrats who do these things, but let's go through.
We're not.
Well,
yeah,
let's go through
like
who
Fred
they were.
is. I don't know.
The
He's
gentleman
going to speak Latin here
in Aurora, Colorado, who killed people in the movie theater, was a very, very strong liberal sympathizer. Jared Loughner, the lunatic who shot Gabby Giffords in Arizona, also a known liberal. There was a guy who was in New York who was stabbing for a while. This is, I think, in 2010. He was stabbing Islamic cab drivers.
Yeah, I remember that story.
That was also blamed on Tea Party. Turned out he was, again, a big-time liberal. Interestingly, he was a big supporter of a mosque, but he was, again, a registered Democrat, active liberal. Amy Bishop, you may not remember Amy Bishop. Amy Bishop was, and by the way, these first three and all of the others, the initial responses were that they were Tea Party types. So actually very similar to the type sitting in this studio. Amy Bishop was an educator, and she murdered in Alabama at the university that she worked 3 minority professors or minority folks.
Yeah, I remember this one too.
Amy was apparently she had been never been fired, but she had been moved sideways because she was very erratic. She was a huge environmentalist, huge supporter of Barack Obama and his causes. The Fort Hood shooter, as we know, was a Muslim terrorist. The President of the United States and the entire Democrat Party refuses to call him a terrorist. There was a guy this is also 2010, the IRS plane crasher. This is a guy who crashed his plane into, I think it was the IRS building of some sort. He died. He killed, there was another person there. As part of his blather that he wanted to be known after he passed away, he was angry at the FAA and George Bush. And, of course, the Pentagon shooter, a gentleman, I wouldn't even call these people gentlemen. He shot 2 officers outside the Pentagon. Another hardcore leftist who, again, every one of these.
Family Research Council shooter who was actually inspired by the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it goes on and on and on. But the point is that there is history, recent history, and it seems to be almost 100% that the people who go off tend to be those who support liberal causes. And now, this is not a condemnation of liberal causes, but it most certainly ought to be a condemnation of those in the media, whatever the media may be, who immediately knee-jerk and tell us that we've got to fear, as the military, I believe, in a recent report came out, so we've got to fear Christians and those people who are anti-tax increase.
Although I did think it was funny that Bill Maher the other night finally raised the BS flag on one of these yahoos that came in and started spouting about how there's an equivalency between Christianity and Islam. And Bill Maher basically said, "Now wait a second, I got to throw the BS flag on it because there is no equivalency, and for you to say that is intellectually dishonest."
Oh my God!
If you open up the books, you got one book of love and one book of it's ordained hatred of people that you can murder and kill and take people over in the name of Islam.
Well, I would add to that, and I'm shocked that Maher would say something like that, and good for him. But I would add to that and say that...
Shocked that Maher would say something like that?
Well, absolutely. I'm not fond of Bill Maher, but anytime a member of a particular church, be it certainly the Catholic Church or any of the Protestant churches, the Jewish church or the synagogues, anytime someone from their group commits a crime, of which is pretty rare, at least a terrorism type crime, there's absolute angst within the congregation. They denounce it. It's not just within the congregation, it's worldwide. What have you heard worldwide from the Islamic community, worldwide, countrywide, within New York or in Massachusetts? Nothing.
Well, the Czechs wanted to make sure that everybody knew that Chechens were not from Czechoslovakia.
Well, there we go. That's critical. It's like the gal who was in the beauty pageant who felt that everybody ought to get maps because America was a place that needed maps. Hey, let's get back to Muskegon because we got lots of interesting things that happened this past week, and one of the biggest, although there are lots of big stories this past week in Muskegon, but one of the biggest is the MLive and Muskegon Chronicle's obsession with the new Walmart. The fact that there's going to be a Walmart up in the White Lake area appears to be, it's very, very interesting and important to union types who do not like the fact that Walmart is not union. And there are certain small town types that are against growth. They are deniers of the realities of the world.
Of competition.
That competition is anathema to them. But there's little question that this is big news to Dave Alexander over at the Chronicle and the other folks at MLive because it seems like every day there is a major article.
Another front page article today.
And there's another front page in the Sunday paper, so that tells you where they're coming from. We got to take a break here, but we're going to come back and talk about a little bit about this issue because, Fred, you live up near there, and with all of the traffic and the horrible pollution to come, and noise and all the profits up there, it's got to be offensive to you. So when we come back from this break, we'll talk about the horror of Walmart in small town America.
Heads up. Radio Juniper is a new one-hour show every Wednesday at 9 a.m. on News Talk 1090 WKBZ. I think you'll like it, but Wednesday at 9 a.m. is when you watch People's Court. So, here's the solution. Turn the sound down on People's Court and turn the volume up on Radio Juniper. They sync together better than Dark Side of the Moon and Wizard of Oz. It's spooky. Google that reference if you need to, and I'll see you Wednesday on News Talk 1090 WKBZ.
These days, going to the dentist can be practically painless.
Gee, that didn't hurt a bit.
Until they hand you the bill.
Ow!
Because if you don't have dental insurance, you could be spending a lot of money. Even just a simple cleaning can cost over $100. And other procedures like crowns and root canals can cost you hundreds more. But now you can get dental insurance for less than $1 a day. Real dental insurance that can cover over 300 procedures. Everything from cleanings and fillings to crowns and dentures. To have a free information kit mailed directly to you, call Physicians Mutual Insurance Company. 1-800-760-1468. Your acceptance is guaranteed for one of these insurance policies, even if you're retired or on Medicare. You can see any dentist you choose and never pay a deductible. This is the pain-free way to get coverage for less than $1 a day. For your free information kit with all the details, call 1-800-760-1468. 1-800-760-1468.
Ah, the sound of small business, getting busier. Can you tell which one is using AT&T? Truth is, they all are, because businesses of all kinds can find AT&T customizable plans that fit their exact needs. Whether it's broadband, mobility, or nationwide voice, at AT&T, we can help your business get humming.
I need more receipt paper, please.
Call 1-855-877-4288 today and ask about special offers available for new small business packages. AT&T, rethink possible.
Because Mike switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on car insurance, his money clip wants to shake his hand. Firmly, for a solid 3 seconds. But it can't. Fact is, most money clips don't have hands to shake with. Switch to Geico, and every time you notice the extra cash, you'll know your money clip wants to give you a firm handshake. But remember, it can't. It doesn't have hands. It is, however, happy that you're saving money.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
The talk of Muskegon. News Talk 1090, WKBZ.
There you go. Get your motor running. It's all you.
Gotta let it start. Oh, baby, it's Sunday morning, and that motor needs to get running. This is Ian Muskegon, but actually we're going to rename it Oscar Unleashed. but we are back. Captain Fred, Jim Riley, and the inimitable Oscar. Indomitable Oscar Oswald. Hey, we're talking about the undominable Walmart, the tsunami of Walmartians that will be coming up to the White Lake area unless those forces of let's say, anti-competition, I suppose, unless they win out. But there's going to be a meeting Wednesday, April 24th. There's going to be a rally at the Township Hall, and then they're going to show up at the Whitehall Township Planning Commission, putting heat on these high-paid planning commissioners.
You know, the interesting thing that I find with all of these demonstrators and organizations and stuff, they never quite come out with what would be the true way to do this, which is, why don't they go out and offer the landowner double the money? Why don't they pay off the folks that want Walmart and make sure that the Whitehall Township gets the tax receipts that they would get from Walmart?
Ooh, the tax receipt. Yeah, that's true. If Walmart doesn't come in.
The point is that it's the outlying communities. It's Whitehall, Montague, White River. Actually, Montague deadlocked in their vote, but White River the other day, Township voted against it. Well, they don't get a vote. This is a Whitehall Township issue, and so you got a bunch of outsiders that are coming in and trying to tell Whitehall Township what to do.
Well, they're doing it, Fred, as you know well, because they can. Number one, that this is America. You're allowed to protest on things that don't very specifically address your issues. But more importantly, they do it because quite often they win. To me, the big story here is not that there's an organized group, mostly labor-funded, that is against Walmart, but the fact that there's a huge number of people willing to stand tall for the issues with I disagree, but they're willing to stand tall, trying to keep this clearly. Almost everybody in the community will benefit, except for a few small businesses, but to keep this business out of their community. And the people who are willing to support this are no place. Thankfully, Walmart has, by virtue of the support that they get from millions upon millions of shoppers every week, they have enough money to buy lawyers to push their
on top
cause.
of that, they are on the legal side. They've done nothing wrong. They're proposing a legal use of land. They are complying with the zoning regulations and zoning issues.
But they're going to cause carnage according to the anti-Walmart people. They're going to cause carnage in downtown Whitehall. And I would just say, for those of you who've been to Whitehall, and I used to live up in the White Lake area, take a list of those companies that actually have to compete with Walmart, because there are very few of them. The little knick-knack and artsy stores obviously will benefit from it. I know the one leader of this whole anti-Walmart cause is the owner of a bar. His business most certainly will do better. There are...
Yeah, I always go to Walmart and they hit the bar.
Well, because you'll have extra money. See, that's the key.
Okay, gotcha.
If you have extra money because you've been saving at Walmart, or you won't have to drive all the way down
You'll have
to
discretionary
North Muskegon,
funds.
you will have additional discretionary income that if I was up there, I would spend at the bar. I would celebrate every time I got a discount on bananas.
I'm looking forward to playing Walmart bingo. You ever play Walmart bingo?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You don't know what that is, do you?
I have no clue what that is.
Women with tattoos and it's
You guys have a whole list of things that you look for people at Walmart.
And quite honestly, I mean, of all the people that are perhaps maybe impacted, I'm fairly close to the situation. It's only going to be down the road from me. I live on Silver Creek, and it'll be across the road from Silver Creek Road. And
with all the advances that Whitehall's had in the last probably 10 years, I mean, Walmart, you won't have to go to Muskegon at all anymore. You can stay right there at home.
Quite honestly, I try not to go to Muskegon as much
Same
as possible.
here.
But on the other hand, I try not to go to the stores as much as possible.
Right.
But I think you're right. I look at this and say, well, that does mean that It'll save me the trip to Myers in Muskegon. It'll save me a trip to Walmart when I decide to come to Muskegon.
It's good for the earth. It's going to reduce. Well, it flat out will. I mean, for those who are environmentally sensitive, this is without any question going to be good in terms of reducing gasoline usage and all the other vile things that they tell us come from a vehicle. But on a
larger scale, I mean, from a constitutional standpoint, if in fact you can stop the Walmart, then you can stop anything. You can stop another small business. You can stop lemonade stands from being built. You can stop a Cabela's or a Dick's, and it constitutes an unlawful taking of property because it's not allowing the property owner to use his property at the highest level.
Well, you may call it unlawful, but it's lawful in America today. And if you stay home, maybe those folks will win. By those folks, I mean the bad folks. We got to take a break. Amendment. Well, there we go. I am too. We got to take a break. Sell horrible advertising that will cause all sorts of carnage, and we will be back after the break.
Smog, garbage, sewers, car exhaust. Today's world puts our sense of smell on overload. Luckily, there are places we can go to refocus our senses. Our national wildlife refuges. When you visit, your nose will instantly recognize the purity of nature. Bask in the aromatic scent of the black pine trees blowing in the wind. Detect the sweet fragrance of primroses, wild violets, and blue sage. Smell the fresh salt water in the air as waves crash into rocky shoals. When you smell these things, you're smelling the world the way we found it. With over 500 refuges across America, you don't have to go far to make a special connection with nature. Learn more at fws.gov/refuges. That's fws.gov/refuges.
The Talk of Muskegon is News Talk 1090 WKBZ Muskegon and heard 24 hours a day on WOOD HD2 Muskegon.
Due to the massive sales success of Benton's 30th anniversary sale, General Motors and Benton have teamed together to launch the biggest spring sales event in Benton history. It's official. If you're buying a new Chevrolet, GMC, or Cadillac, you'll not buy it for less anywhere, guaranteed. This giant spring sales event means every vehicle in Benton's massive 20-acre motor mall is marked down to record low levels. Plus, Benton has authorized their entire sales staff to pay you more for your trade during this sale. Right now, drive a new Chevy Cruze, just $79 a month. Chevy Malibu's $109 a month. Chevy Equinox $119 a month. Or a Chevy Silverado 4x4. Pick your color, just $198 a month. Get 0% for 72 months on all remaining 2012s. And every vehicle sold comes with Benton's 100% low price guarantee. Don't miss the spring sales event. Only at Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC, both sides of Henry Street, Muskegon. It's where Michigan shops. Benton.
Fox News Radio, I'm Sal Giangresso. Motive remains a big unanswered question in the Boston Marathon bombings. Suspect Dzhokhar Tsarnaev in no shape to be questioned and remains hospitalized under heavy guard. He hasn't been formally charged yet.
For now, the government is invoking the public safety exception. It's basically a designation that allows investigators to question Tsarnaev without reading him his Miranda rights. And albeit uncommon, there is a group of lawmakers who say he should not be read his Miranda rights, period. Republicans Lindsey Graham, John McCain, Kelly Ayotte, and Peter King feel he should be tried as an enemy combatant. That would allow the feds to hold him without an attorney and without rights afforded by being an American citizen, such as the right to remain silent and also the right to counsel.
Fox's Elizabeth Pran, the ACLU and federal public defender have raised concern about interrogation plans that don't include a reading of Miranda rights. In Watertown, where the surviving bombing suspect was captured.
Watertown residents last night, after that long day of being shut in, gathered together and held a vigil. They worked to remember the victims and to gather together after really just a very fearful more than 24 hours.
Fox's Molly Line. National Guardsmen and even prison inmates are trying to ward off fast-rising floodwaters in the Midwest, and their efforts could face new challenges in the days ahead.
The next chance for rain across the areas of Chicago and Indiana, places that saw significant flooding this week. will be Tuesday as we see potentially another inch of rain. That won't cause additional flooding, but it will hamper efforts as people continue cleanup.
Fox News meteorologist Rick Reichmuth. And evacuation orders were lifted for some residents as firefighters made advances on a brush fire in the foothills east of Los Angeles. That's now about 50% contained, and no homes are threatened. You're listening to Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
Countryside Greenhouse of Allendale, bigger and better than ever before. Now located on Lake Michigan Drive, just 3 miles west of Allendale. Countryside is offering the best greenhouse experience possible. Come check out our brand new greenhouse and enjoy wider aisles, more parking, and more beautiful flowers than ever before. We are opening the doors with unbeatable grand opening special pricing throughout the entire greenhouse. Better than ever prices to match a better than ever greenhouse. Experience the highest quality at the lowest possible price today at Countryside Greenhouse of Allendale.
It's your car. You take it to people you trust.
Total rebuild. We want to rip out your linkage.
It's your finances. You want to go to the experts.
Cut your payments by 50%.
We've got to find a way to get out from under this debt. We can help.
The National Foundation for Credit Counseling is a nonprofit organization that has been helping people for 60 years. Speak with a counselor today at 800-388-2227 or visit debtadvice.org. This is a public service campaign for the NFCC.
News Talk 1090 is the talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you
Dadgum government. Well, it's not just dadgum government. It's frankly, from my standpoint, and this is I in Muskegon with Fred Birch, Jim Riley, your lovable host, and Oscar Osbo operating the musicality going on here. But it is the folks who support Walmart who are sitting back and allowing a relatively small number of people to outshout them. And that's what works today in America. I suppose it's always worked. I just don't understand. We know that what happens when a Walmart comes into town. We know that millions upon millions of people go to the Walmart, and we do know it's been studied and studied and studied. We do know that they save money that they are then able to use within their own community, and it tends to better, and studies have proven this also, it tends to increase the GDP of the entire community. But if you stay home and you let the loud shouters win, you're going to at least have the opportunity, the possibility of losing. So if you want a Walmart in your community, you might want to show up at that planning meeting because, let's face it, the folks on planning commissions are typically, they don't get paid anything, and they are typically not Winston Churchillian types. They are not the types willing to stand tall. They're not like Maggie Thatcher. They're not like Ronald Reagan. They are much like Neville Chamberlain in that we have what would a typical planning commissioner say in the face of this onslaught? We will not fight them on the beaches, and we will have small stores in our time, or something along those lines.
Well, don't undersell the Whitehall Township commissioners.
Well, good, and I hope I'm wrong. I'm talking planning commissioners in general.
I think you'll find that they are going to be level-headed and follow the legal steps that they need to follow.
Well, one would hope, and of course, as you have said, the Walmart does have the facts and the law on its side.
That's good.
Okay, I want to touch on this. Actually, to me, this is the biggest story. I would say one of the biggest stories I've ever seen in Muskegon, and it is, even though there is a little front paging on it in
bigger than the
Chronicle.
porn ripoff.
Sadly, Oscar,
bigger than the cow tipping.
Yeah, sadly, not bigger than the porn ripoff that
couldn't be on Jimmy Kimmel. Then,
national news. But I'll lead with this because the Muskegon Chronicle, who has always been, lovey-huggy, aren't we a wonderful community? Things are great here in Muskegon. And they had on their MLive page, they had the question of the day, and it says, has Muskegon succeeded in becoming a premier, vibrant shoreline city? And some of the goals that apparently the city has set in order to realize their vibrancy have been being a leader in improving race relations and diversity. Now, that, interestingly, was the top one, at least in the article. Fostering opportunities for city youth Number 3, promoting economic stability, diverse economic growth, and redevelopment. Number 4, sustaining natural, cultural, recreational resources of the community. Number 5, strengthening stronger ties among local governments and agencies. Number 6, developing and maintaining city roads, sewer, and other facilities. And the last one, maintaining and enhancing the city's residential neighborhoods, which I find kind of interesting. How in fact, could the city council of the city of Muskegon maintain a city residential area? But what I found interesting was there's clearly an interest on behalf of at least the people at the only really major news media that we have in our county, and that's the Muskegon Chronicle, clearly interested in promoting these ideals and hoping to get a better community out of it. But at the same time, in the same week that they were asking, are we on our way to massive monster success, we have this kind of a little story, although it is front page today. The story actually happened earlier in the week. And the headline is, Muskegon Public Schools are out of money. Board approves, this is, to me, knocks me off my feet. Board approves a $2.6 million budget deficit. In other words, they sat there and said, we are short for 1 year in $2.6 million. We don't have enough money, even though we don't have enough money, we've decided to spend $2.6 million that we don't have. And then immediately following this, it says that the Muskegon Public Schools, this is not Muskegon Heights Public Schools, by the way, that have just recently gone bankrupt, one of the few school systems in the United States of America to go bankrupt. This is the Muskegon Public Schools, the largest public school system in our county. They also announced that it was turning over its financial operations to the Muskegon Area Intermediate School District. And the details of that remain fuzzy and unclear. But what I found interesting was the Muskegon School Board president, quote, said the community should be aware, not alarmed, by the budget crisis. He said the board is ready to make the tough decisions necessary to eliminate the deficit, even though they just voted to spend $2.6 million that they don't have. And then he finishes up this way, which tells you, folks, we've got a problem with this. Reminds me of the Costa Concordia ship, where without too much question, the captain of the ship was a moron. Okay, he also turned out to be a coward, but this gentleman was a moron. And then the ship, which turned over and would have sunk if he wouldn't have run it onto the rocks. This is the captain of the Muskegon School Board saying, what the community needs to know is we'll be okay. If we don't do anything, it can become something bigger. Well, that's got to make people feel pretty comfortable. But how can we become a vibrant community? Well, number one, if you look at the MEEP scores, we're not educating our children. But in concert with the non-education of the children of the Muskegon Public School, we've bankrupted it, and it's now being, if not shut down, at least the leadership's being shut down. This is monster news. I don't believe that there are two school districts in one county in the United States of America that have gone broke. I don't believe there may not be two school districts in any other state in the United States that have gone broke. And they're right here in what some have called Detroit on the Lake. I mean, our beautiful, but potentially beautiful county of Muskegon. This is stunning, folks.
Yeah, it is pretty astonishing when you start to think about it. I find it interesting that he says that the board is there to make the hard decisions, and yet they did not make the hard decision.
Unbelievable.
The hard decision would have been to go ahead and cut the $2.6 million from the budget, and go ahead and make it right right now as you head into the new year. The fact that they didn't speaks volumes about what that school board is and what it's doing. And the second thing on this whole business is this goes back to what I've been saying for quite a while now, which is the single most important fundamental of all policy decisions in the future is going to revolve around debt and how much money is going to be spent. And we can choose to sit back and pretend that everything is going to be okay and continue to spend the way that we've been spending, in which case life is going to be very, very difficult in the future. or we can make the hard decisions now and try to manage things as well as we can, so that we can bring this debt down, these spending levels down. But we can't do it as long as we're going to be supporting the snail darter and that kind of stuff.
Well,
we've got to go ahead and start to make the priorities.
Fred, the snail darter has nothing to do with this issue. This is very clear. This has well, no, they have guaranteed revenue. They're not like a business. They have guaranteed revenue as determined by the number of students they have, and not like I have been frankly, misinformed by both of our Democrat state representatives. The city or the Muskegon public school system gets between $13,000 and $14,000 a year of public funding for every student. Now that comes from the federal money, that comes from state money. The state money is around $7,500. There are other fundings that come in, so they get plenty of money per child. They just don't know how to spend it correctly. But it's even worse than what you and I are talking about here, Fred, and that is because that's just the cash money that they're talking about. Every year, and you mentioned debt, every year they are getting further and further behind, just like our Muskegon County Board of Commissioners.
On the pensions, on the
pensions and the retiree health benefits. So this is not just a $2.6 or $3.8 million deficit. You must look at the deficit that they continue to run up by promising retirement benefits that they have no hope of paying for.
And the biggest thing with schools, too, is that they've cut so many programs out that used to be there. And, where'd all that money go?
Well, I can tell you, Oscar, the money's gone into the pockets of the administrators and the teachers. With get this now, almost every employee, certainly every union employee and most of the non-union employees, get an annual step up in pay every single year. They get a cost of living increase, I believe, every single year. And, of course, they get the cost of providing for their pension and for their retirement health benefits goes up massively, as we all know, and they don't pick up that increase.
I'm sorry.
They get 3 increases every single year, automatic.
I'm sorry that I equated the snail darter and pensions, but essentially what I'm saying is that at some point you have to start looking at how you manage these pieces and what is available or not. And it always amazes me that the unions come in with very hard lines, because when the community ultimately does go broke, such as in Stockton, California, or some of these other places, they start to go bankrupt. They go through the bankruptcy procedures. When they go through the bankruptcy procedures, things like pensions and benefits and contracts get reopened. And if you don't manage those things up front, what happens when they get reopened is people say, well, you didn't do anything when the times were good or is better than they are now, so we're just taking it all.
Well, let me tell you that may happen, but
it might.
In one of the more frightening aspects that I've ever seen this country face financially is what's going on in Stockton, California, because typically, I don't want to get into wonkishness here, but typically if a municipality were to go bankrupt, the first people who are in line to get paid by the revenues, and of course cities, no matter what happens, if they go into bankruptcy, they still get revenues. The first people in line are the municipal bondholders. Those are the people that bought bonds, invested in bonds. Then on down the road are the pensioners. As a matter of fact, when a municipality goes bankrupt, the pensioners tend to get stuck because in most cases it was the spending on unfunded pension and health benefits, retirement benefits that was contributory to the bankruptcy. That's always been the case, and that's allowed people to buy municipal bonds, which of course fund municipal activities. This now, the unions have said in Stockton, we don't like this place in line where we are behind the bondholders, and they are suing, and this is now on its way to federal court. It may not be settled for some years, but they are actively suing to say, no, we don't want to be, we don't want to have to contribute, we don't have to take a hit if in fact the mismanagement of the city is collapsed. We want to get ahead of the municipal bondholders. Now, if that happens, and it just happened with the General Motors and the Chrysler bailout, if that happens, if the courts say the pensioners are ahead of the bondholders, you will lose all of those trillions of dollars that Americans and others have invested in municipal bonds, so that cities like the city of Muskegon, for instance, who have bonds that come due and must be renewed, forgetting new spending, but they must be renewed, people have to have belief and confidence that these bonds will continue to pay. And if, in fact, bad things happen, it will happen to the very people who caused it to happen, which is the underfunding of these
what you're
pensions.
saying is that you are putting the municipal bondholders at more risk, and with more risk comes more interest. And
will come more interest.
Therefore, you cannot sell the bonds at a low interest rate, even if you're at a AAA rating. If you put people at risk, they're going to demand more interest, and if they demand more interest, that means we have larger funding issues, or you just can't sell the bonds at all.
Well, there's another answer. There's another answer, and it's already happened. You may have heard of the Build America bonds, and this is what's going on with the Obama administration. Build America bonds are essentially municipal bonds that would have been issued by states. In this case, the biggest amount of these Build America bonds were issued in California, but they were issued by the federal government and guaranteed by the federal government. So what you have is the likelihood, the bailout. The reason that you have the Muskegon School Board members confidently saying things are going to get better is they believe, I think, at least this is a scenario that does make some sense, that they will be able to be bailed out by either the state or the feds. If the federal government, in the form of Build America bonds, comes in and starts to guarantee these municipal bonds, even though they are behind the pensions, then number one, the municipal bond buyers will be very comfortable. They'll like that. Corporate America and rich people will think that's just wonderful. That's who typically buys these bonds. But more importantly, there will be no pressure on these communities to reduce their spending and their indebtedness, because they will be, in essence, they will be guaranteed by the federal government out of responsibility for having to pay.
But ultimately, you build a Ponzi scheme.
It is a Ponzi scheme.
And what ends up happening is that you pay these things out of the future investments that you are currently obtaining. And therefore, as you go along on that thing, the whole house of cards collapses, and along with it takes everything, including the federal government.
Well, the Soviet Union went from happy, according to the CIA report, to 6 months later it had disappeared. So things can happen quickly. We're going to take a break here, but when we come back, we're going to get this. The ACLU is suing the city of Detroit because, get this, the city of Detroit, which you know has got far excess to way plenty of police officers and no crime. They're using police officers to pick up homeless people, sort of like you would a chipmunk, and deposit them out of the nicer areas of Detroit, which you can imagine is not
possums.
big. And it's moving them from the nicer areas of Detroit and dropping them off. These are homeless people with no means to protect themselves in the not nice so areas. So that's what your Detroit police people are doing. We're going to come back and see if that's a good idea.
Day with a special happy feeling. You will if you have the iHeartRadio app on your smartphone and tablet. iHeartRadio lets you listen to 1,500 live radio stations. You can make custom stations with it. You can even use the Perfect For feature. Perfect for any activity. That's why it gives you that special happy feeling. Don't have it? Then get it. Download the free iHeartRadio app at iHeartRadio.com.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it will cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim is in excellent health and can get a 10-year $500,000 policy through SelectQuote for under $19 a month. Jim's wife, Deidre, 36 and also in great health, can get a 10-year $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. See how much you can save.
For a free quote, call 1-800-947-5735. That's 1-800-947-5735. 1-800-947-5735. Or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Get full details on the example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Due to the massive sales success of Benton's 30th anniversary sale, General Motors and Benton have teamed together to launch the biggest spring sales event in Benton history. It's official. If you're buying a new Chevrolet, GMC, or Cadillac, you'll not buy it for less anywhere, guaranteed. This giant spring sales event means every vehicle in Benton's massive 20-acre motor mall is marked down to record low levels. Plus, Benton has authorized their entire sales staff to pay you more for your trade during this sale. Right now, drive a new Chevy Cruze, just $79 a month. Chevy Malibu's $109 a month. Chevy Equinox $119 a month. Or a Chevy Silverado 4x4. Pick your color, just $198 a month. Get 0% for 72 months on all remaining 2012s. And every vehicle sold comes with Benton's 100% low price guarantee. Don't miss the spring sales event. Only at Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC, both sides of Henry Street, Muskegon. It's where Michigan shops. Benton.
Baker Auto and Marine Trim is the Lakeshore seating and upholstery experts, plus a whole lot more. Get ready for spring with a new convertible top and car audio system. Use your tax return to get those accessories or custom work that you always wanted done. Baker specializes in fleet service. Business owners, call Baker today to get your entire fleet of vehicles restored. Local dealers and body shops get their work done at Baker. Baker Auto and Marine Trim does it all and has been for nearly 100 years. That's Baker with 2 Ks on Pine Street in downtown Muskegon.
The talk of Muskegon. News Talk 1090, WKBZ.
That's what's pretty much going on here. Get Roger Miller. This is, we ought to do an all Roger Miller show sometime. That would really boost up the ratings.
Yeah, that would
Hey, I Am Muskegon is back. Hey, before the break, we were talking about this ACLU, the Detroit police dumping homeless people outside the city. Now, here's the interesting thing. Detroit is very certainly the management of Detroit is all minority. So the people being picked up here, these homeless folks, probably are almost entirely the minority folks. They're being treated really very, very cruelly. Think about it. They're dropped. They got no means of safe return to wherever they go. Again, you may laugh, but this is somewhat like taking you found a chipmunk, put it in a live cage, and you took it out someplace, except these people, well, a chipmunk might be able to survive, 20 miles away. These homeless people, quite obviously, do not have the wherewithal to survive. But this is what happens when you have collapse of a society, which, of course, is happened in Detroit and is now seemingly to happen here in Muskegon County.
But if they've got the skills to be homeless in Detroit, why wouldn't they have the skills to be homeless in Flint or Ann Arbor or someplace?
Well, I don't think they're dropping them in Flint or Ann Arbor. I think they're dropping them in some of the more Hiroshima-style locations in the city where there's...
Oh, so they're just driving them to other sections of Detroit.
Within the city, correct.
I see, okay.
Yeah, they want to make sure that they don't harm Mother Earth with the driving...
But see, I always make sure when I drive the opossums away from my barn, I take them far enough away that they can't come back. But if they just drop them off in another portion of the city, they'll be back.
Well, if they drop them off, let's say in Birmingham or Bloomfield or Grosse Pointe, maybe they'd be adopted, in the way that you might adopt a possum.
be like that movie with Richard Dreyfuss.
There we go. Yes. Well, unfortunately, as someone who has a brother, who's a schizophrenic, so many of these folks are mentally ill.
Yeah, that's right.
They are not able to take care of themselves, and I think it's despicable. Again, this ought to be in a real world. In the caring world of the left, this ought to be big news. It just isn't. In this one case, I must agree with the ACLU.
Down and out in Detroit, Michigan.
There we go, down and out. Well, it's kind of scary. Hey, the little story. This is not big, but this is just how the private-public partnerships work out. You know that Governor Snyder's talking about very significant increases in gasoline taxes and in car registration taxes because there's no place to cut in order to fix the roads. And we were talking earlier about prioritizing cuts, and of course, the one thing that we got to cut first is road repair. Yeah. We don't have to cut all.
Don't fix that pothole in front of my driveway.
Yeah. We don't have to fit all the subsidies to the movie, the movies, and all that kind of thing. But here's this is the type of thing. This is not Republican, Democrat, left or right. This is us against them. Get this. There is an attempt. This is a bill that is working its way through the state House, I believe, that would exempt the what the automobile makers call test vehicles that drive through Detroit's roadways from any potential taxes going forward, meant to pay for what is very popular among the left, Southeast Michigan's new regional transit authority. In other words, they want to have this new choo-choo train that's going to bring people to Detroit. Actually, this may work out well with
that's right.
with all the homeless people. They can
just
put
them on the
one-way tickets going out.
bound.
Well, anyway, there's a lot of support for this, but as a matter of fact, there's a lot of support for this regional transit authority from General Motors and Chrysler and Ford. But in order to pay for it, they're going to put additional fees within that area, that Southeast Michigan area. Well, these companies have said through their lobbyists that, hey, we don't want to have to pay these fees on our vehicles. Now, you would say, how many test vehicles could they have driving around? They got 12. General Motors alone's got 12,000 of them. So you can be sure these are not test vehicles. These are vehicles for their executives and various other people. And so who knows, unless people make some noise, this will probably pass. This will be another benefit from the people who support everybody else paying for something, but they, in fact, will exempt themselves. It's as bad as the
electric cars.
Well, you know what? It may not be as expensive as the electric cars, but it's certainly it's almost worse, because what they're saying is, we don't care what the taxes are. We want an indemnity before you even vote on the taxes.
You know, have you ever thought that maybe we ought to just stop the clock, stop the problem, and freeze everything in place and tell the lawmakers that we just want them to go home for 2 years and not do anything? We'll pay them not to do anything. Because, you know, quite honestly, every time that they do something, it just gets worse.
Well, it certainly seems not only to get worse, but it also seems to get more expensive. And here's another one this is Wayne County. And I want to mention Wayne County here because Wayne County, of course, is where Detroit is. Genesee County is where Flint is. And I have been hearing now, I've heard from 3 different places where our county commissioners are now saying, apparently with some element of pride, this is Muskegon County commissioners are saying, we should not be compared with the counties that surround us, Ottawa County, Kent County, even Oceana County. We should be compared with Flint, Genesee County, and Detroit's Wayne County. Now, I have yet to hear a specific explanation as to why there's some pride that we shouldn't be compared to the counties that, in fact, compete with us for jobs and employers.
Well, not only that, but
residents.
Ottawa County is relatively comparable from the standpoint of population and that type of stuff. I mean, as I've said on many an occasion, I mean, back in the day when I grew up in Ottawa County, Holland was considered the small town, and Muskegon was considered the big town. You know, that was the big town on the West Coast.
It was the big union town,
and now the situation is somewhat reversed.
Well, our county commissioners seem quite comfortable with the position that we're in, and maybe you can ask your county commissioner why is this this concept being spread around,
I don't
because
think
it
I
is
can
being
ask
spread
my
around.
county commissioner.
Well, you may not be able to get an answer, but one of the reasons that Muskegon County is in the mess it's in, of course, is because we have our education system is not only now, as we find out, broke, truly broke. But it has not, if you look at the MEEP scores, it's not really doing any educating at all. The numbers recently from Muskegon Heights were just awful. But I had an experience, and I'm going to mention it and maybe get myself in trouble here, but I had an experience within the last period of time where there was I was invited.
The last period of time.
That's kind of wide. That narrows it down quite a bit.
I don't want to get specific. I don't want to get specific. But there was an event put together in order to honor some educators in our community. It was a nice event. It was kind of quick and very nicely done. But the educators, and there were 10 or 8 or 10 of them that were brought up and given a little plaque and that kind of thing, and of course all sorts of applause. And they probably were the best educators in the county. They probably were well deserving of this honor. But the person who was the MC of the event, who I'm assuming was an educator, I don't know. I have no history whatsoever of this person. But the history mispronounced about half of the names of those who came up. And like I say, there was only 8 or 10 of them. And half the names were, fairly simple, like, Smith and Jones. The other 5 were a little more challenging. But if that's what excellence is, because that's what we keep we're constantly told our schools are about excellence and about bringing the best out in our students. And if this is someone who, in fact, believes themselves to be worthy of being the MC of an event that honors excellence, and didn't even get the concept that you've got to talk and make sure that you're pronouncing the names correctly of just a very a handful, even a handful of my number of fingers, but a very small number of people. It just made me think, if this was a private sector situation, that person would have been in trouble, because it's indicative of a lack of interest in excellence. And I felt, geez, is this what excellence is within our local school systems? And apparently, if you look at the city of Muskegon, or the Muskegon Public School District, and you look at the comments as reported by the Chronicle of the board chairman, maybe that's the definition of excellence, and it's not my definition of excellence.
Yeah, you know, I'll counter that story with another fast story. There's a family down in Alabama who has 12 children who homeschool. And in their homeschooling their children, all of their children have gone to college prior to the age of 14.
Yeah.
They've started college. They have, I think, 3 or 4
That was
kids.
just to get them out of the house, right?
Yeah, I'm sure. But, you know, in almost every case, these kids have gone on to medical school, engineers. One's a NASA astronaut, wannabe, aeronautical type of a person.
All high achievers.
Very high achievers. And then, you wonder, okay, now that's not to say that, homeschooling's the answer or anything. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is that if you want kids to live up to the potential, then you have to put the effort in to the children somehow. And you can't hide behind this business of, well, we're just a bunch of high-paid babysitters. Our class sizes are too high.
Well, they're not hiding behind that. They're hiding behind the fact that the parents aren't doing their job, and these kids are untrainable.
That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. It's all the parents' fault. It's all of this. It's all of that. Bottom line is, we are in the situation we are in, and we need to figure out how to unlock the potential of these children, and we need to give them the tools to do the work in the future.
It's certain schools in Muskegon, though. It's not all schools in Muskegon. I mean, like Oak Ridge that does a great job, I think.
There's lots of different schools that obviously have broken the code.
Right.
And, we should be able to learn from these things, and we ought to be able to take those lessons and apply them to other areas. But obviously it's very difficult, and I realize that change is difficult. Now, people get complacent in what they're doing.
Well, I don't think they're complacent. I think a lot of people are unhappy and they don't know where to go because they are told essentially that it is their fault. But let me tell you, there is a change here, and I wake up, I go flippy-floppy all the time over Governor Snyder, because sometimes I get very angry with his what appears to be expansive governance, and then I read an article like this. Get this, now he is under fire already for this, but Governor Snyder defended his administration's involvement in a secret project that is trying to develop a cheaper way to deliver public education through voucher-like funding system. This is a system what they call the Skunk Works, which of course is a term that they used for military research and design, super-duper secret, but they called it a value school that costs $5,000 per child annually to operate. That compares with the $9,000 to $14,000 that we're currently spending in total in the state of Michigan. And get this, the group includes, this secret Skunk Works group includes employees of software companies, charter school advocates, and 5, interestingly, whoever they may be, 5 state employees. But the point is that they're trying to come up with some ideas. Is there another way, as you're suggesting, Fred, to think out of the box and come up with a way that will, in fact, educate kids and not just bankrupt us? Because we now have the problem where we're bankrupting and we're not even doing the job to begin with.
And I'm glad to see that this is happening in Michigan. In Texas, Governor Perry came out and challenged his higher education group and said that kids should be able to get a college degree for $10,000. And he wanted them to figure out how to do it for $10,000 and be able to go to community colleges and online courses and different kinds of things. And I think that that's what it really has to come down to, is are these efforts where you start to set parameters and say, now look, we know that we can do this. We've done it in the past. And we haven't always spent this kind of money on per per pupil. We haven't needed to in the past, with fixed inflation dollars, and so we ought to be able to come back with things. I mean, my dad used to tell the story, and he was an educator, principal of a high school. He used to tell the story that the best learning experience in his life was the one-room schoolhouse that he went to, where he was in the class with grades 1 through 6 and was listening. When he was done with his work, he was listening to the sixth graders learn about agriculture.
And that's exactly what I was saying, though, as far as we do have some schools like Oak Ridge, like Mona Shores, and a few schools in Muskegon that work. Why not do what they're doing? I mean, that's just the same thing with Ottawa County.
Oscar.
Why not just do what they're doing to make things work?
Well, not only that, there are schools within the inner cities. There are schools where as the educators tell us endlessly, that these kids aren't educatable. I'm not even sure they could pronounce that.
I can't.
But in fact, they are able to educate young people. And it is a word. You can look it up. There's Google out there.
But I think that deserves an answer,
I agree.
Oscar, and I'll give you a
great question.
I think I can give you a simplistic answer, and that's the not invented here syndrome. If it's not invented here, if it's not invented by me, I don't like it.
Right.
Well, you saw that in the military while you were carp fishing for 20-some years.
Exactly.
Flying carp. Let's move on to another thing that has to do with education, and this is your love of taking money out of the taxpayer's pocket and giving it to your local subsidized Muskegon Community College. And
can I say just one more thing though, before we change? The one thing, if you notice about Mona Shore schools and you notice about Oak Ridge, is that the community is behind the school. The community is there to support the school.
There is a community, yes.
Right.
Excellent point.
Exactly. And that's the problem with a lot of the schools. The community is not behind the school, I think. But anyway.
Well, on one hand, I think that's probably true because there hardly seems to be a community
Except
in
for
Muskegon
maybe
Heights. Well, but there is a community in the city of Muskegon, yeah. And like you say, there's certainly interested parents when it comes to football and some of the sports. But
I think
we need to start looking at other things. You can be sure that Snyder's in trouble on this.
There are parents that are interested in other things.
All right, let's get back though.
I got to make Jim cry here in a minute.
There we go. Well, as promised,
feed him a carp.
What we have is a situation where the Muskegon Community College has said that they want to raise, I believe, it's $30-some million, $31 million for a new kiln and some art studios and some other what I would consider to be generally frivolous things. But then they throw in, we're going to increase the science labs. Now, I'll let you argue how critically important it is for MCC to get $31 million, and the new kiln, I'm sure, will create Van Goghs and Remingtons, and Remington, the guy that
it's really science oriented.
Rembrandt.
Well, no, Remington did the statues. You could do a statue in a kiln.
You're talking about Frederick Remington?
Yeah, Frederick. Yeah. Anyway,
Remington. No, he's talking about Remington steel.
And maybe not cowboy art because cowboys are not viewed as being acceptable art these days.
Cowboys poetry.
There we go. Yeah, but there's cowboy poetry that is federally subsidized. Thank you. But my question is this: on one hand, you have sometimes they're just volunteer folks, like we had a gentleman who's on the Muskegon Community College board, who went in front of the Muskegon County Republicans and gave his pitch as to why it made sense. But there are also employees of the Muskegon Community College, and there are also within the community college a significant amount of monies have been invested, if you will, in terms of coming up with their presentations and their logic, if you will, for the spending of the money. But on the other hand, it offends me that we certainly never see this from the newspapers or the media. But what is the net effect? Because there is always a net negative, whether it's huge or not, when you take $31 million out of a community and you put it in the pockets of a particular group. In this case, it's going to be, you're going to give $31 million out of Muskegon that would have been spent perhaps at a Walmart or maybe a little knick-knacky store down in downtown Whitehall. You're going to take this money out and you're going to give it to the community college. Now, in fact, I'll let you in a moment say why this makes sense.
He's only going to give me like a minute.
I'm going to give not even that. I'm going to try to keep it a moment, maybe a fourth of a second. but there are some negatives, and the same thing happens whenever you spend money yourself. If you're going to go buy a new car, you're going to take maybe $20,000 out of the family income. Monies that could have been used for a vacation or any number of other things. There's always a downside to an investment, and we make those decisions ourselves. We know that a very small number of people are ultimately, if in fact they do vote for this, much like the jail, which won't be voted on at all, when we take another $41 million out of the community. But the facts are that there are downsides. Why are we not demanding that if in fact MCC is going to use community resources, taxpayers' resources, to promote the benefits, of which there are, I'm sure we're going to hear some great benefits in the half second that I give Fred to respond. But why are we not allowed to hear it, and why are they not being forced to say, okay, wait a minute, we're going to take $31 million out of the community. We're going to increase the cost dramatically on businesses that pay the bulk of these. What is the negative? And Fred?
Okay.
Answer that.
No, well,
that was great, Fred. Okay, well, we're going to be back, and we're going to talk about Fruit Loops. Oh, no, wait. Sorry about that. Go ahead. Oh, no.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, go back.
No, I brought this up at the meeting very carefully. Said, look, you have to come out with a business plan. You have to actually share the business plan with the community. You need to show the benefits and the disincentives for doing this, and you need to lay them out, and you need to show how this is going to impact on the community. What are the benefits to the community? Because the community needs to know how to prioritize its funds.
I understand that when you asked that question, this very intelligent person who was there promoting the concept was sort of shocked.
Yes.
And wait a minute, we never thought about selling the benefits. Think about that.
But ultimately, the bottom line comes down to the same issues that we've been talking about before. In this particular case, it is not that I support it so much as the fact that I will at least get a vote on the bond issue. Okay, I will at least get a chance to make my voice heard.
What about my point, though? Should they not be required to at least list some of the negatives that surely will come from taking $31 million out of the community?
I think that's the opposition's position.
They're using public monies. Why should the private sector allow the public monies to be used for the promotion of spending?
Because that's the system we live under.
Well, it's a system we need to change.
I is going to be used for the health training vocations.
For all the high-paid jobs that are available in health training in our county. There are none.
Phlebotomists? Phlebotomists?
Oh, yeah.
You don't think that they don't need phlebotomists?
They do not need phlebotomists.
Nurses?
They've got plenty of phlebotomists.
They have more nurses.
There is no shortage. No shortage.
Oh, my gosh. There's a waiting.
We need to
do you realize that there is a waiting list?
Yeah, there is.
Try to get into Muskegon Community College?
My daughter has been going for 6 years now trying to get in there for.
Yeah, but there are no jobs when they get out.
Oh, yeah, sure there are. That's not true.
That's not true.
There is in the health industry.
Not in our community, there are.
Yes,
hey, we're going to take a break, and
I agree with Fred on that one.
With only me, I think, because no one agrees with me.
You're going to throw me out. I'm not here.
You're as cold as ice. You're willing to sacrifice our love.
Be a survivor, not a statistic. Renegade River in Spring Lake has new and used handguns, hunting guns, sporting goods, and survival gear. Protect your rights and your freedom. Ask about their CPL classes. Renegade River, next to the police station in downtown Spring Lake.
Due to the massive sales success of Benton's 30th anniversary sale, General Motors and Benton have teamed together to launch the biggest spring sales event in Benton history. It's official. If you're buying a new Chevrolet, GMC, or Cadillac, you'll not buy it for less anywhere, guaranteed. This giant spring sales event means every vehicle in Benton's massive 20-acre motor mall is marked down to record low levels. Plus, Benton has authorized their entire sales staff to pay you more for your trade during this sale. Right now, drive a new Chevy Cruze, just $79 a month. Chevy Malibu's $109 a month. Chevy Equinox $119 a month. Or a Chevy Silverado 4x4. Pick your color, just $198 a month. Get 0% for 72 months on all remaining 2012s. And every vehicle sold comes with Benton's 100% low price guarantee. Don't miss the spring sales event. Only at Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC, both sides of Henry Street, Muskegon. It's where Michigan shops. Benton.
Geico presents a thank you letter from your motorcycle.
Hey, I just wanted to say thanks. Ever since you saved money on your motorcycle insurance with Geico, we've been going out a lot more. When we're together, things just work. My pipes rumble, and my engine screams like an eagle. A happy eagle, not one of those angry eagles. You know? Yeah, you know.
Geico could help you save on your motorcycle insurance, and that should make you and your bike very happy.
Ah, the sound of small business, getting busier. Can you tell which one is using AT&T? Truth is, they all are, because businesses of all kinds can find AT&T customizable plans that fit their exact needs. Whether it's broadband, mobility, or nationwide voice, at AT&T, we can help your business get humming.
I need more receipt paper, please.
Call 1-855-877-4288 today and ask about special offers available for new small business packages. AT&T, rethink possible.
Renegade River in Spring Lake wants to buy your used handguns and hunting guns. Renegade River, your hunting, camping, and survival store. Stop in and check out their new and used firearms, sporting goods, Army and Navy supplies, and survival gear. Downtown Spring Lake, next to the police station.
Fox News Radio, I'm Karen McHugh. Tomorrow marks 1 week since the Boston Marathon bombing. Residents of Watertown, where surviving suspect Dzhokhar Tsarnaev was captured Friday night, held a vigil Saturday.
When these cowards fled from Cambridge and they hopped the fence over to Watertown, they landed in the wrong backyard.
And we all know, we saw that incredible video of everyone cheering there in Watertown as the law enforcement officers streamed out of that community following the capture of this suspect. And this vigil also gave the residents a chance to gather together and to thank all of the law enforcement officers.
Fox's Molly Line. Stormy weather over much of the lower 48 to start out the week.
Much cooler conditions across the eastern third of the country today behind a cold front that will continue to bring some lingering showers across areas of South Florida.
Fox meteorologist Rick Reichmuth look for snow from Montana to Colorado. More rain in the already soaked Midwest. Fox News, we report, you decide.
The Talkin' Muskegon program can now be heard live every morning, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. here on News Talk 1090. This is John Van White.
And Brian Worsham. We will focus on community events, news, weather, and sports. We'll also bring you traffic updates, weekly segments like the movies with Ron Van Timmeren, the Biker Report, and Lumberjacks. This is Talkin' Muskegon right here, 8 to 9 a.m. on the Talk of Muskegon, News Talk 1090.
Don't rock the jukebox. Wanna hear some Jones? 'Cause my heart ain't ready.
He's looking at me funny.
Okay.
Hey, Fred's dancing.
Oscar, the plan was that we
how
would
about this
be
one?
having music that had something to do with what we were talking about.
A little better for you?
You can't tell what the intro is.
No.
Yeah.
I used to.
You used to, yeah, right. Okay.
Well,
back in your younger days,
yeah, well,
right?
let's get some
back before
Patty
we started
Page or
getting
something.
a little dementia.
Page.
Hey, one of the things that I've found, sadly, far too easy to put together is a segment on what I call just dumb, and Oscar's going to come up with some really cool tunes on that, I'm sure. But we were. Oh, there we go.
No,
that's not just dumb. Actually,
Okay.
that's a pretty good song.
All right.
University of Wisconsin. We're talking about universities that desperately, as they tell us, need more money. They need to raise tuition. They need to come up with all sorts of nifty new fees. And everyone's got to buy a new kiln, I'm sure. This just happened just yesterday, or the day before yesterday anyway. University of Wisconsin was just found out that they've got a $450 million slush fund. Now, put this in context. The tuition balance was $414 million. It's gone up massively. They've been keeping it from either the trustees or at least certainly from the politicians. There's a lot of really bad stuff going on. That's just dumb, folks. But the good news is it's coming out. You want to hear this? This to me is great. Get this. In the real estate world, okay, now we probably don't have homes that would qualify for this here in Muskegon, but I'm sure in Ottawa County they do. The term master bedroom is now become a term that you're not allowed to say. Matter of fact, somebody from Pulte Homes has said that, there have been lawsuits about against real estate companies who advertise, you've got 4 bedrooms, master bedroom has so many square feet and hot tubs and whatever. That term apparently is offensive to those folks who are perpetually offensive because the term master harkens back to the master of the plantation.
Al Sharpton?
Well, it's hard to say. One would imagine that the real estate the world is responding to this because apparently somebody made some money in these lawsuits. But they're now using the term, which I can't imagine is any better, owner's suite.
What?
Or owner's bedroom. That is now replacing among the hoity-toity areas, perhaps not here in Muskegon.
Parents'
but
bedroom?
But if you want to be...
The parents' bedroom.
Yeah.
This is owner's bedroom, which didn't the masters of the plantation own the slaves? So I can't imagine how that is less offensive. Yeah. And I would imagine that at some point there will be a lawsuit on that one. But there we go. This is progress in America, folks. No, I'm not sure what's going on there, but we'll continue. Hey, in Pennsylvania, get this: they have a board, but they have 2 transportation boards. One that that runs all of the state roads, which is about 40,000 miles and 25,000 bridges. Okay, and you can imagine that the folks on this board are quite well compensated. I think they have 7 executives. They have another one for a toll road. And the toll road has the 545 miles. They got a full board. It's got, I believe it's 5 folks who are on that particular board. Turns out that they're spending money like crazy. And this has been going on for decades and decades and decades. So there we go, folks. Your money spent.
Well, we'll never have that problem on the federal government because Barack Obama said that he would go line by line through the entire budget.
I think the Republicans said that they wouldn't vote on anything that they hadn't read and hadn't been made public to. So, again, this is not Republican versus Democrat. This is us versus them. We talked last week about the shocking outing of the Wayne County, the county that Muskegon County aspires to be, that they're building a new jail, which is, of course, what is the new shovel-ready deal. And what are they?
We're in competition with
$200 million over budget. People just couldn't imagine that a government program could be over budget, but in fact, they found that. Well, just this past week, here we go. At a time when all sorts of monies are scarce, which we know, and we must, tighten our belts. The federal judiciary told Congress that they're building, they're rehabbing, I guess, 12 federal courthouses. They promised when first came out it was going to cost $1 billion. Oh, shock, shock, shock. It's now $3.2 billion for the rehab. The money, of course, will be found without little trouble.
But you can keep your doctor.
Yeah, well, that's what they say. 24 IRS workers in Tennessee now have been accused of theft, apparently stealing money from folks who call in and ask for help. Here to me is maybe the most sad. I know. Here we go. Dial 1-800-I'm-fleeced. This may be the worst thing. A new poll, and who's to say where this comes from? It comes from Politico, but nearly 6 in 10 Americans say wealth is distributed unfairly in the United States, and a majority want the federal government to play Robin Hood to fix that problem. Folks, it doesn't get much worse when 60% of America thinks that they want somebody else's money.
Well, perhaps it is time for a wealth tax. We'll just take all of Bill Gates' money and Warren Buffett's money.
I'm not sure they're just looking at Bill Gates. But hey, on that happy note, don't forget the county commission is now meeting at 4 o'clock as opposed to the old 3:30. They have no meetings this week. They canceled one last week. They're down to 5 meetings a month. So please, they're horribly overpaid. The cost to the county is around $45,000 a year per commissioner. So give your county commissioner a call and say, hey, we really appreciate those 5 half-hour days that you spend. You guys are doing a great job. Don't forget to look at the show.
I've earned everything I've got.
There we go. Even that little dog in the cloth coat for the wife. I am Muskegon. Hey, look us up. We post the show video. First, we post audio. IamMuskegon.com. And then Oscar gets us the video. Folks, thanks, Fred. Thanks, Oscar. We'll be back next week. We're going to try to tell you what's going on, folks. We do the hard work. Have a great week.
My clothes, well, you dat gum.